Welcome and good evening, ladies and gentlemen, to WCS North America Premier League round of 32. I am Nathanius. With me is Rotterdam. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing lovely, Nathanius. It's a pleasure to be here in this beautiful blue studio. We're both in blue as well, and I'm ready for some more StarCraft. It's been a weekend full of StarCraft action over here in Europe, and we're just going to continue with it.
Yeah, this is pretty cool. We have some awesome games tonight. We'll be covering Group G of the round of 32 for WCS America. A lot of Terrans in tonight's group.
That's why we brought you here, Nathan. They're like, Rotterdam with 3 Terrans in the group. We need a Terran expert, and that's where you come in.
It's definitely going to be awesome. Bunch of, I'd say, big favorites, especially for WCS America. At least of the favorites that are left players, Polt, Minigun, Illusion, and the underdog for this group, I'd say Neeb as well. Gives us a pretty good, I feel, start off here for our games we're bringing you guys from Cologne.
Yeah, it's fun as well that we have Polt in our group today in WCS America. As this is, of course, the place where Polt recently had, I would still say, a massive success. He may have not won the Intel Extreme Masters in Cologne, but he had one hell of a run over here. But WCS America has been going on for a while, and right now it's actually 1 hour earlier than normally it is for Europeans, as normally the broadcast starts at midnight. Today we start at 11 p.m. So maybe we have a few people watching who have not been completely up to date about what has been going on in WCS America. So let's just take a look at what has happened in the previous weeks. 6 out of the 8 groups have already been played. Here we can see all of the groups. In Group A, we had Alicia advancing. Later on, we saw Hart and Tootming advancing. Those games were pretty awesome that day. In Group C, we had the 2 Zerg brothers that once upon a time were teammates of TSO, advanced with Hyun and Revival. Group D, Nathan, that was a day, wasn't it?
Oh, this is where the upsets began with the rather interesting series. I think pretty controversial. A lot of people were very worked up about the big success and almost the downfall of Jadong, one of the big favorites from WCS America. Bomber even having to claw his way out there after Arthur took out first place. And I'd even say Group E, Hero not being able to make through, with Huck and Shigwa advancing, probably caught a lot of people off guard as well.
Definitely. Group D is where the craziness truly started, even before we had a couple of minor upsets. But Group E with Hero, the WCS America 2013 Season 1 champion. So he basically was still the reigning champion of Season 1. He may have not been the reigning champion of WCS, but Season 1 he did win back then. Him not advancing was a major upset. Then Group F also started off crazy with Tasia dropping the first series of the day. Yes, guys, craziness has happened in WCS America, but eventually Tasia was able to bounce back and he still made it out of the group. And I think right now, if you're Tasia and Aja, you must feel, Nathan, you must feel pretty good about your chances in the overall tournament.
Yeah, you're looking at this for the big contending players, especially for players like Tasia, like Bomber. A lot of that competition is gone. Hero, I'd say, probably the scariest Protoss, at least I would have said prior to the tournament, in the whole WCS America bracket. Jadong, probably the scariest Zerg player at the beginning. And I think that gives some good chances to our Terran players, and there actually are quite a few of them here in WCS America.
Yeah, one of the other top Terran favorites is one of the players that we will see in action today in Group E or F action. I keep messing it up. A, B.
G.
See, Group G. Wow, so I was neither. All right, well, 3rd time's the charm. So if you guess wrong twice, let's take a look at some of our players of today. Polt, Neeb, Minigun, and Illusion are going to be our 4 stars of today. We can take a look at the WCS rankings of last year. Of course, Polt being the Season 2 and Season 3 champion. He gathered a lot of WCS points.
Yeah, Paul taking home 2 championships, even making it to BlizzCon at the end of the year. He's overall 100% the favorite for this group. Everybody else here has something to prove. Neeb, the second player that we can see here from Fnatic, probably the least known if you're tuning into WCS America, probably the least amount of fans, but he has the most to prove. He has the most to gain from taking series in this group. And you know, he's one of those players we talked about before we actually got into the broadcast today. Someone that we both kind of like to follow in the North American scene. He streams a reasonable amount, and he's probably one of the better, more improving North American players throughout the 2013 season as well.
I couldn't agree more. In 2013, there were a lot of up-and-comers, but not a lot of them were really able to show progression throughout the entire year. A couple of them had high peaks, but after that, they fell off again. Every single time I had the pleasure of casting Neeb in WCS 2013, as he made it into Premier League twice, I really felt I was looking at a very promising foreign Terran player, especially now with the recent changes that Terran has undergone. I actually think that Neeb has a very realistic shot at making it out of this group today. He is not the favorite on paper, but he's a Terran player to watch out for.
Yeah, certainly so. And the last 2 players for the group, Minigun, Chad Jones. I feel like if you watch WCS America and you don't know about this guy, he's pretty hard to miss. He's taken actually quite some nice success in the last few months at the Ender's Game tournament as well. and he's always active, very high profile streamer, constantly seeing playing and laddering. And Illusion, probably someone that was maybe a bit bigger towards the beginning of 2013 to 2012 times. But he's, this is an opportunity for him to maybe get himself out there a little bit more once again if he can advance in this group.
Once more, Nathan, I have to completely agree with you. Illusion did indeed make a big splash back then in the early days. Like, for instance, that IPL, I think it was IPL 4, the very first IPL in Vegas, where Scarlett had her magnificent run and she got a lot of love. But actually, Illusion's run was even better that tournament, but it was a little undershadowed. But even after that, back then, I think MLG, the one in Rhode Island, Illusion also defeated a lot of good players. Back then, he was really the next big thing for Terran. But then in the latest stage of 2013, back then with the first Quantic disbanding, Illusion fell off the scene a little bit, but however, ever since he joined Root, he's been practicing a lot again. You can see that his games in WCS America Challenger League were really fun when he defeated Australia in a really cool 3-2 series. So overall, this is also an important day for Chris. It is an important day for everyone. You have Polt, the overwhelming favorite, and everyone's like, Polt should advance, but it's always easier said than done. And then you have 3 players who all have a very realistic shot at making it through.
Yeah, certainly so, and I like your point, especially bringing up Illusion is one of those players. You mentioned his series versus Straya. He's certainly one of those guys that can bring in the more interesting plays. You guys can see this is the layout for the group today. Polt will be playing against Illusion, then Neeb against Minigun. Of course, the winners will face off. The losers will face off to determine who advances and who goes home. Only 2 players can move on to the round of 16.
Of course, super important. The round of 16 will be played offline, as always is the case with WCS America. This time, however, it's going to be a little special. You won't just be able to go to an offline event. You get a trip to Europe as well. This is like Christmas, man. It's like all the good things at once.
It's my first time being here in Cologne. This place is absolutely beautiful. I think there's you get the ticket out here for WCS round of 16. Certainly worth it. Interesting times.
For me, it was a really nostalgic drive, as this is a drive that I made a lot in the past. Of course, I'm from Holland, so Germany was close, and I already went here a lot during the World Cup 3 times. And ironically enough, they're still working at the same highways that they were working on 7 years ago. I'm not sure what's up with the German government, but come on, guys, like get those roads ready already.
So yeah, I'm from Pennsylvania. If any Americans that ever go through the Pennsylvania area, some of the worst roads in the entire country. It's construction almost never stops. Yeah. We have our lobby. So for the first Terran versus Terran series that we're going to have today, Illusion versus Polt, we'll be starting off on Frost, a map that I think is pretty interesting. Both of these players, I would say, Polt and Illusion, both will favor bio styles, at least in the games that I've seen of them prior to this group series. So I don't think the map will have too big of an impact. It's pretty large, so leans itself a bit more towards those longer macro games.
True, but if there's one aggro Terran on the North American service, it has to be Illusion. Illusion is this kind of like this hyper kid, as he's still only 17 years old as well. So despite having a career sort of with ups and downs, like we just mentioned already, he's still so young and could still make a fantastic run throughout the course of StarCraft 2 history. But I don't think I know anyone as aggressive playing Terran as Illusion. Maybe Masa, as Masa is also a very crazy North American aggressive Terran player, but Illusion, he loves to attack. He loves to always make stuff happen. He is just not the type of player. Even when he's ahead, you'll still see him active on the map. He will do pretty much whatever it takes to still gain an advantage.
That's a good point. I think Illusion, even if he's not the favorite in this match, he's certainly one of the hardest players to predict. He's pulled out, I think I kind of mentioned this earlier in that series versus Straya from Challenger League. For him to get to this position to play in the round of 32, he pulled out some pretty creative builds that I don't think many Terran players have used. I know I myself was able to steal a couple ladder points with them. So Illusion is, I have to just stick with the very aggressive, creative player, very North American ladder.
Polt perhaps a little more focused on the macro element in this matchup, but Polt, of course, one of the quickest Terran players. We saw the madness he displayed during the Intel Extreme Masters in Cologne just a couple of weeks ago. Polt was everywhere at any given moment. It was ridiculous. If you watch some of his PVTs, or TVPs, I should say, the game that he played on the Heavy Arena, I think it was against Stardust, if I recall correctly. One of the best TVPs I've seen of the entire year. Polt is so much fun to watch, and I think it's going to be a really fun series. Chris has nothing to lose, everything to gain. Of course, a little more pressure on Polt. Hopefully, it should just be some really fun TVT.
Yeah, well, let's jump into this, guys. We have the map loaded up. We are here for our first match of the WCS America Group G in the round of 32 and spawning in the northeast position as the blue Terran player. He's already got a couple championships. Can he move on to the round of 16 from Cooler Master Storm? It is Polt. a crowd favorite for sure. And his opponent in the Northwest, spawning as the red Terran player from Team Root Gaming, it is Illusion.
Yeah, these spawning locations are already interesting. Horizontal is definitely a lot shorter positions than it would have been if this was cross-map, for instance. Might be nice for Illusion. These days, in this day and age of the TVD matchup, Nathan, of course, you are a Terran player for the people who don't know, so you have a lot of experience in TVDs. I feel Cloak Banshees are more viable than they've ever been in the matchup, in the current meta.
Yeah, especially right after they made that patch to reduce the cost of the energy for the cloak, it pretty much became the build for Terran versus Terran. Everybody doing it. It was already a popular build in Wings of Liberty, pretty much up until Hellbat sort of took over that role. And we already see Illusion in his build possibly showing that he could go for that Cloak Banshee play. Gas before his barracks, he'll be able to get a very fast factory tech. And Polt, slightly later gas, we might have some sort of Reaper-based play. But back to the Banshees, the distance between the players on this map for the being on both top positions won't be difficult to get over there in the early game for that harass at all.
And I can totally see Illusion perhaps using that information to his advantage as well. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see Chris open up with some sort of build which says, like, I'm going to try to shut down a Cloak Banshee, which gives me maybe a minor window to walk across the map and already do some crazy push. Because everything you know about Illusion is just that he likes to do stuff his own way. I do not feel... If you, for instance, look at Major, you know that most of the builds that Major will always do is he looks at the Korean Terran players, he looks at a build he thinks is best, and he's going to go with it. I feel Illusion is polar opposite. Illusion just comes up with stuff by himself, and if he has success with it, he's going to try to keep working with it. He will keep improving his own build. He just kind of sets the trend.
Yeah, and I don't think that's a bad play, especially versus the prestigious opponent being Polt in this series. Also, just kind of funny to note both players sending their SCV scouts at the very beginning of the game to the wrong direction. But the Reaper will get the read very quickly on where Illusion is. But you do make a good point. I like that Illusion kind of does his own thing for these matches. You know, a lot of Terran players would have said that they had trouble in TVP, and Illusion made his own way to win that series versus Estrella. So coming up with his own, or, you know, doing something early aggressive, try to get an edge versus an opponent like Polt is probably one of the best ways to defeat an opponent that would otherwise be heavily favored in a long-term macro game. And Polt gets in with the Reaper. He's able to get a pretty reasonable read. I think he saw just about everything that Illusion has. So he knows what to expect. Didn't see the second gas.
Yep, that's the only thing.
Yeah, and that could be the tell of whether or not he goes for a Cloak Banshee or fast siege tank push or just something like a Marine Hellion medevac attack. I'm
even feeling that like, double Reaper opening could have been kind of scary for Illusion to deal with, as he only has 2 Marines. Of course, that one Hellion would do an excellent job in soaking up a lot of damage. That still could have been quite tricky, as we all know that the Reapers can snowball out of control very easily.
Yeah, this Reaper actually jumps right in as Illusion tries to move out with just a handful of Marines and that Hellion. Won't kill any SCVs, but he gets a read. He can see, okay, there's the tech lab. Double gas, he confirms everything now and knows to expect Cloak Banshee. The Cloak does begin on the starport. Polt, meanwhile, has just started his starport. His command center is about to finish up, and what he's really looking to do is just hold off this Banshee aggression and secure a stable mid-game through this early expansion that hasn't even begun yet for the Root Gaming Terran.
These 2 Hellions and these 2 Marines on the low ground could be annoying as well. Taking a look at Polt's mineral count right now, or SCV count, he has 17 SCVs in the main. There's always a chance that he sends a couple to the low ground while he's still worried about those Banshees in the main. So these 2 Hellions could perhaps pick off a few workers, maybe even a mule. But Illusion already decides to review his Hellions, gets a free SCV kill, sees the first Widowmine as well. Every shot on a Widowmine is pretty important because there's a big chance this Widowmine is going to try to relocate as soon as that Banshee makes his way across the map. And if that happens, then the Banshee might only need like 1 volley to kill the Widowmine off instead of 2 or 3.
Yeah, it's really smart of Illusion to try to keep those units pulling Polt's defenses down towards that natural expansion. He's relying purely on this Widowmine to keep these units out. He doesn't have SCVs there. He hasn't transferred anything down. He's keeping everything very close to the chest. And I like Polt's missile turret placement. He's invested in just 3, making sure to put one, and I feel like not a lot of Terran players do this. They put the missile turret next to the production. One of the last things you want is for the Banshee to come in and even snipe your reactor, snipe your tech lab, because once you see that you can't get in the mineral line, you're immediately going to look everywhere else. And actually uses 1 Marine to take the Widowmine shot, going into the natural expansion. There's still not too much here, though. Just a handful of Marines. Might try to bring the Banshee up with this, but it seems Polt's not going to have too much trouble, at least holding this off for now, as the Viking is out on the map.
Excellent hold here by Polt. Having those missile turrets, like you said, he didn't underdo it. He just dropped 3 of them, both in or one in each mineral line, and then one above the production facilities as well. Illusion's move was quite cute with that one Marine soaking up that volley from the Wither Mine, but it was still really hard for that Banshee to provide a whole lot to that push. As we all know, 2 Hellions and Marine, that is not going to be able to take out a missile turret in a short amount of time. And with the few Marines that Polt had, he made sure to take almost 0 damage from that push. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, pretty solid. And, you know, just looking at the way that these build orders have panned out as that Widow Mine picks off another Marine, it's a tough way to die. The worker count isn't even really that bad considering the way that Illusion opened this game. He didn't have to make the investment into the engineering base and missile turrets. So as far as the resources gained and lost in this game, it's certainly a little bit better for Polt since he's able to mine more with the earlier mules, but it's still anybody's game.
It definitely is. However, I still like Polt's position quite a bit. The difference between having 2 orbitals up and running for that amount of time, of course, as you know as well, they will be there gathering energy all this time. So by now, Polt has dropped 2 or 3 additional mules more than Illusion, and eventually you will see that reflect itself in the supply as well.
I was actually waiting to see if Polt would go for a faster third command center. He's just now started his 2 additional barracks. No upgrades on the way yet. Meanwhile, Illusion has Stim breaking the halfway point. Does have 3 barracks production, so he's got a pretty nice actual setup for getting out units. Polt, I don't think if he moves out with this Marine tank force, he shouldn't be able to do too much unless he can nestle himself under the production. But even Illusion's buildings aren't too close to that ramp. And Polt scans. He wants to check and know what's going on. And I feel like this is still just a solid setup. There's not really too much either player could do. Illusion's going to try to poke in with this Banshee again, maybe bait out a scan. There are 3 Vikings pretty much right on top of it.
Yeah, Polt knows it as well. I think Polt is not sure if he wants to scan, or maybe he doesn't have the energy for it. He does have energy for it, but of course he doesn't want to throw down a scan and then let's see that Banshee fly away. He doesn't really have to. He already scanned the main. He knows exactly what's going on. He dropped those additional Rexes, like you mentioned, before he dropped that 3rd command center, which just shows that Polt is also not going to play overly greedy, which makes sense. Because if I was Polt going into this series, you look at the group and you're like, okay, these are some pretty good Terran players. However, I'm Polt, and if I bring my A+ game today, I should be able to advance. There's no need for me to cut corners.
And Illusion's actually going to move straight up to 5 barracks before taking any type of 3rd command center, taking his gas as well. He could be looking to just make this big assault off of 2 bases, almost reach all-in levels. He needs to do some damage with this type of attack with this 3rd command center finishing for Polt. If he secures that 3rd base, the economic lead here, this is where it really starts to make a big difference. And nice, does manage to pick it off with that Banshee. Does have to use the skin. He has another Banshee here. These Vikings doing a great job of zoning this force out. And Illusion getting his siege tanks in position to break this front line of Polt is going to be almost impossible with the air control from Polt. So he loads up 2 medevacs.
That is actually a pretty sick move. I feel that's the only way that Illusion could potentially make something happen. But Polt just seems on top of it. He's there with his 3 Vikings. 3 Vikings are really scary because Illusion knows he will lose those medevacs in no time. And with this setup that Polt has over here, I'm afraid that Illusion is just not going to be able to break this. However, he still does not have a 3rd command center, and he's not really showing a whole lot of ambition trying to go up to 3 bases either. So I still think he's going to try to make something happen here, but I think Polt has such a good idea of what's going on that he's just going to sit back, and he knows with that triple orbital, he's in a fantastic position.
Yeah, especially considering that Polt can defend this with his stim. He still has a minute left to go on the research for that, so he can't be aggressive at all. And he's banked up a lot of SCVs in his natural. He's ready to fully saturate that 3rd command center whenever he can move it out, even placing Marines around the north center area of the map just to see where Illusion is moving his tanks. He even has his Vikings positioned at the top of the map ready for any type of drop play that Illusion can bring. And now Illusion starts the 3rd command center. He's building it at the 3rd base. We have Polt getting his armory together. So Illusion's decided just a little bit later. He's just taking his expansions a little bit later than Polt, it seems, at every step of the game so far.
This one Marine is standing over here on the north side of the map, and it will spot these 2 medevacs. That is so important. I hope Illusion definitely saw it. He saw something blue on the minimap and already moving Marines into position. However, is this enough? I think he needs to send a few more.
Yeah,
I don't think that's enough.
If the medevacs unload, this is going to get really difficult with that healing. He's pulling his forces back. The rally sent into his main base. He still has the majority of his army at the tower, so Polt's just looking for whatever he can get. Picking off 1 reactor, you know, any type of production cut he can make to Illusion without losing all of these Marines is fantastic. And Illusion tries to grab one of the medevacs, still alive with just 6 health, has to keep one of these siege tanks at home to help defend. And Polt, he doesn't get too much, but just a reactor for a few Marines and a couple of Illusion's Marines is quite nice.
Polt was not aware of that army still being this close. Illusion is going to try to deny this. He might actually be able to kill this orbital over here as the forces from Polt are quite far away. What a pickup, and all these SFVs as well. Wow, that was a fantastic trade for Illusion.
Really nice bit of aggression. Illusion making the... I mean, you really couldn't have picked a better time to move in with that Marine force. Almost feels like he got lucky with that, but man, that is a painful position to feel for Polt. All those tanks were sieged on the high ground, not able to do anything about that. Now
I think Polt was just so sure that Illusion would have retreated with his main army because of that drop and worried about more coming in, that Polt is like, by now, like Polt didn't check the middle of the map, but he's like, there's no way that his units are still there, or maybe they're at the Zelnarka Watchtower, but there's just no way they're near my turret after I just put on some drop aggression. And suddenly, with that one move, everything changes, and now Polt has to make something happen. Otherwise, Illusion is going to be the one that will be outmining him. What a sick turn of events.
Yeah, Polt brings a massive army to the front of Illusion's base, but the siege tanks are not in range of that mineral line. He cannot deny any mining. He can't do any damage to the economy just yet. He's trying to position these tanks closer and closer. Still not technically in range, but he can drop under that by that mineral line now. And with the cover of the siege tank fire, try to deny mining through that. But
however, there's reasonable cover from Illusion as well with his siege tanks. That one medevac providing some vision. Illusion is going to be able to get the first tank, but we'll lose one tank in the process as well. Tank count is slightly in favor of Polt. Marine count is extremely even. Upgrades seem pretty damn even as well.
Yeah, just everything seems really close. He has one medevac. Illusion going over towards Polt's base, flying in. Actually, the one spot where there isn't a missile turret, but
he's not paying attention though.
Not going to unload in time. 2 Marines managed to squeeze out into the production, and actually going to kill a couple of Marines.
That is a shame, because if those would have been 8 stimp Marines, he would have been able to at least pick off those turrets and then set himself up to drop effectively later on. By now, the 3rd command center is ready again for Polt, so he's going to float it over. He's trailing 6 workers. He has to soft contain on Illusion, but I don't think this is the end of the world for Illusion, who has better upgrades, by the way. Look, I mean, right now they were even, and they were even for a while, but his 2-2 will be ready in 10 to 15 seconds, while Polt is going to be at 2-1 at best, and not even that in the near future.
Yeah, Polt, I mean, this is one of those situations, especially with Illusion getting these Vikings, he's able to take back air control, at least to some extent. With an upgraded advantage, this gives him an opportunity. If he wanted to try to spread his army around, maybe swallow this tank line, just with that tiny upgrade advantage, this is one of those situations where, as Polt, how much time can you really afford to spend out here if you're not doing damage?
I love how he brought a couple of SCVs to repair those tanks. He was aware of the fact that he didn't have high ground vision for a while, so he knew he didn't want to scan all the time, so he's like, even if he catches me by surprise, losing those 3 Vikings, that's kind of expensive. However, I still love the fact that he brought those SCVs. That gives him the time to soak up that first shot, but still win the tank battle, even if he has vision later.
Yeah, it's a good old stalemate, and Illusion actually has quite a few SCVs in the natural. I'm just kind of looking to see if he's going to move any of them over towards his 3rd base.
26.
Yeah, 26 SCVs, so maybe a little bit more than you might need at that point. He starts his 3-3.
6 snipe over here on the north side of the map. Polt somehow spotting that medevac, sends a bunch of Marines over there and picks off another medevac. That's 16 Marines already that haven't done all that much on the other side of the map, and 2 medevacs.
It's pretty tense. Some of these Marines actually getting walking over the DMZ line, getting obliterated by Polt's siege tanks. And at this point, both players, mostly Polt actually adding infrastructure, getting a sensor tower by his 3rd base, looking at a 4th command center. I think he realizes he's not going to be able to break Illusion, not in this position, especially with that slight upgrade advantage that he was able to hold on to earlier.
Polt is maxed out though, and he's up 20 supply. It's still very hard to just team in and try to make something happen. I do not think that Illusion will ever fight before he's maxed out, and above all, until he has 3-3 upgrades. He probably looked when his upgrades were ready, and then he probably clicked on those Marines from Polt for a couple of times, and he's like, still just +1 armor, that's nice. So basically you're telling me that I have at least 60 seconds when my 3-3 is ready to pick a favorable engagement?
Yeah, it's starting to get pretty interesting. Polt was moving some of his Marines towards the south side of the map, and Illusion does have a medevac with barely any hit points.
This one Marine can be a hero, Nate.
Marine actually could. That'd be like, what, the 3rd full drop that basically does nothing. And
he's gonna get it.
No, Polt's.
Oh
my goodness. That is sick. Illusion has had no luck this game with his drops at all. I don't know how it could get worse for the drops. Oh man, Polt still has a huge number of Marines. He was traipsing around the north lip there, looking for a 4th base from Illusion. Nothing to see there yet though. And advancing the tank line, Polt actually gets a couple shots off on Illusion's tanks, and he's actually he's chewing away quite a bit.
Polt losing quite a few Marines over there as well. Look at this large Marine squad on the north side of the map. However, I feel that these spreads from Polt are very well spread out. These tanks. 94 Marines right now. Oh, I think Polt is going to go for it. Of course, at the same time, Illusion is coming in from the north side.
Yeah, he's spreading his Marines out pretty wide line. All the tanks for Illusion picked off, moving the rally down. That tank line of Polt chewing away so much at this, though, especially with that medevac count to keep these forces alive. The concave looks nice for Illusion, but there's just not enough. Polt maintaining a 30 supply lead. This 3rd base for Illusion, he still has the economy, but now the Marines move in. He's forced to come in and fight, and that's where the siege tank cover becomes a huge problem.
It would have been so awesome for Illusion if only he had like 60 Marines coming in from the south side. I think that would have completely changed the tide of this battle. He's going to try to go in again after a few Marines were picked off. I still do not think that this is a fight he should take. Despite having superior upgrades, he just doesn't have the numbers anymore.
GG. Polt takes game number 1 here at the WCS America round of 32. Illusion, you know, the game seemed pretty close, in all honesty, up until those points where he threw away just a little bit too much with the drop here, drop there. 3 medevacs basically full that did absolutely nothing. And it's just little advantages like that that let Polt say, you have a bit more Marines than tanks, I can break you, and that's what he did, even with inferior upgrades. Yeah,
Polt definitely got the better hand of those tanks trading blows here and there. Like, always Polt had like 2 or 3 tanks. I also like Polt's tank positioning a little more. I liked Illusion's idea because, of course, you want to attack from as many different angles as possible. And he had a large Marine squad on the north side. I even felt it was a little too much because it took a long time before like the back lines of those Marines were able to shoot. Like the front, sure, they were able to shoot everything, but normally you don't flank with like 70 Marines or something.
Yeah.
Like, that was close to 60, 70 Marines. I really felt if he would have left a few more to his tank, then maybe like 30 on the north side, and if only he would have somehow been able to sneak 20 on the south side. But I guess he was so paranoid about dropping because every single drop just got shot down by Polt. If he had 20 Marines coming in from the south, I think that could have been a different battle.
Yeah, I really like actually what you said. If he had just some with, even with just with the tanks, just something to help buffer the tanks, let him get a few more shots off while that 60 Marine flank happens from the north side. It could have been a completely different fight, especially with the upgrades. I was really impressed. Illusion didn't seem to fall behind at any point in the game, despite getting the later expansions. He still had an even army. He had a pretty close siege tank count. He was only behind a few in the mid game stage, but
I mean, he did catch a break sniping that turret over there, because in the start of the game it looked like, all right, sky is blue for Polt. He's just gonna macro up from this point on, and he was definitely like leading up to that point where he would just have a 30-35 supply army advantage, and then he would be able to do something. However, in the blink of an eye, everything changed, losing your third orbital, and just when he transferred a bunch of SCVs as well, everything changed. And from that point on, you know, normally you would say like, Illusion, you're in a pretty good position right now, and he was just not able to capitalize on it.
Yeah, just imagine if you get something like that and your early aggression does do damage. That's a really scary position to be in as a Terran
that would have been fantastic.
So the second map is Daedalus Point for our Terran versus Terran.
I forgot to I have to let them know here that we are ready. Normally I do not have to do this. So like now I'm just looking at the screen. It's like, okay, I'm waiting, but they're waiting on me.
Daedalus Point TVT. I think I think this is probably better for the aggressive plays, but as a 2-player map, it's also easier to scout. Feels weirder to say that because Illusion was the player that didn't get the scout at the beginning of that game. Yeah. Since Polt opened Reaper.
The cloaked banshees were not that effective. Like normally they're guaranteed to do some damage, and they always do because it's indirect damage. You force out missile turrets, you force out a scan. But that was pretty much all that those banshees did. Like Illusion definitely, like the opening was by no means an all-in. But if you make 2 cloaked banshees and you make 2 Hellions as well, and you send a few Marines across the map, you do hope to do some damage. You know, maybe even force that orbital to lift up for a little bit, or force a lot of mules to be dropped in the main. But Polt took 0 damage. If Illusion opens up like that again, it's gonna have to be a little better. But knowing Illusion, I wouldn't be surprised at all to see something kind of cheeky, because we're in the ESL studio after all, so we can use the word cheeky coming out of Illusion.
We can borrow the vernacular.
That's what I already do anyway. Normally I just put a hashtag in front of it, but now I won't do it.
All right. Well, we're in the map. Let's see if we get that cheeky play, as it were, from the root player. But spawning in the northwest position of Daedalus Point, we have the blue Terran player currently up 1-0 in this best of 3 at the round of 32 in WCS America. From CM Storm, it is Polt. And his opponent in the southeast position, spawning as the red Terran player. Sniped that third base in the last game. Might need a bit more this time around from Root Gaming. It is Illusion.
No decals today, Nate. I know it's against the rules, but normally they ignore the rules. Today everyone is behaving. Everyone is on their best behavior.
Yes, yeah, there's been some funny decal usage. I'm not surprised that rule was implemented.
Hey, creativity is important after all. All right, so I'm going to keep close eye on the opening of Illusion, because I still think we might see something a little crazy from him. Okay.
The double SCV scout would be crazy. Goes for a very fast wall. Wants to deny information from Polt if you were to go for a worker scout. Just a 15 supply. Yes, this actually seems pretty normal. I was going to say for Daedalus Point, this is one of those maps where if you're a Terran player that likes to hit the ladder a lot, you've certainly seen fast siege tank play on this map. There's a huge ramp area at the natural expansion. It's very easy to go for these types of two-base aggressive plays, and I feel like it's one of the strongest moves that you can make on this map in Terran versus Terran, which is the only reason I say that is I feel like this is the kind of thing that Illusion would do to be aggressive versus a player like Polt, but opening with the 15 gas shows that he wants to play a little bit more economically even in the early game, and his SCV actually gets locked in.
I'm really surprised that Illusion dropped his depot at first, and then he just he didn't even finish it, but he just wanted to do nice scouting information, but then he left the doors open. Of course, he will be able to trap it and he will kill it now, but then I still don't think it was necessary for him to drop that depot sooner than it normally was. Of course, it's nitpicking, and it doesn't change that much. Oh, that's nice.
Just throws the engineering, saying, I don't know, no wall. It doesn't look like he's set up to go for any type of aggression. He's actually building a Reaper as I say that. And Illusion, this is a very uncommon type of play that I've seen some players like Thorzane and Bunny do, where they make a Reaper a little bit later off of the 15 gas and move out with a few Marines to attack. But Polt's Reaper will show up here.
Yeah, it's funny how many different Reaper timings there are. Like, even against TVP, sometimes they go no gas, fast expand, but then they still make a Reaper after 2 Marines, because that phase in the game is just so different that it's actually more likely that the Reaper gets a really good scout off, because Protoss doesn't expect it anymore. I guess the same goes in TVT.
Yeah, well, the Reaper does run into these 2 Marines, and nice pickup for Illusion. Snaps that up.
This could be really annoying, Nathan, because now this Reaper is making his way across the map. I think Illusion should definitely be able to snipe this SCV and put that command center on hold for a while, especially with these 2 Marines walking across the map as well.
And this is a really cute attack from Illusion. The 2 Marines backed up by that Reaper. As long as he lets the Reaper take the damage, all Polt has are 2 Marines. Look at this, bringing 3 SCVs as well, hurting his economy in other ways. And if Polt can focus down these Marines, that Reaper basically has a free reign over these SCVs. He's kiting back with the Reaper, just that 1 Marine basically here, and he's even going to kill these SCVs off with that Reaper.
Wow, this is a super effective Reaper play by Illusion. He can definitely fight that Marine. He's going to be able to kill it. Oh, he's playing with fire. Oh, no,
barely manages to pick it up on the way out. Very nice, though. It's one of those cute little things. Illusion's command center is done. He's got his starport on the way. Both players' starport's actually pretty even, with Illusion getting a tech lab, and
I like the double Hellion production from both sides, because this is such a wide open ramp. It is very possible that your opponent plays greedy and he just doesn't have all that much, and you will be able to overrun him with a few Hellions. So.
Yeah, when you look at the distance between the huge space in the main base of each player and the ramp, if you keep Marines or Hellions on the ramp and your opponent does something like dropping or bringing in a Banshee, you have to move your army pretty far away. These 2 Hellions from both players meeting in the center of the map, trying to dance around and use the line of fire attack. It does give a bit of an advantage to Polt. He's got flip more hit points. It will force Illusion to return home. But let's see, Polt is putting out a medevac, so it looks like he does want to opt for the fast drop play. Meanwhile, we have a Viking on the way for Illusion, not using the tech lab on that starport. Could just go for a delayed Banshee or maybe a Raven for defensive purposes.
So it looks like Illusion wants to play mech, or is that too early to say right now?
It definitely leans towards mech, but he still has the barracks there. He hasn't started to build any add-ons with it.
He hasn't even built a single Marine.
Yeah, it's pretty. But it depends on how many more Hellions he makes. There's a lot of weird builds where you see Terran players open with lots of Hellions and still transition out, but it's looking a little bit more like he might go for mech. Polt, excuse me, on the other hand, is just now taking his second gas, so he has a lot of Hellions he can move out with his own, and this 6 Marine drop could just try to break Illusion, but this is what I mean. Illusion, with this many Hellions, regardless of where he wants to go with the mid-late game stage, this is really good for defending these types of early aggression because of how fast you can move between the main and the natural.
I'm still a little worried for Illusion right now. Okay, he does have the Hellion advantage. Those 8 Hellions, they might be able to do it. We do see his second factory go down. That first bench, oh, it's a Raven actually. I mean, I guess he can drop auto turrets to soak up some damage. He still doesn't know about this drop. Now with these Hellions making their way into the main base as well. These 3 Hellions, they don't even have to go to the main. He's actually going to bring them all to the main. So this is a commitment by Polt, but it seems like it's going to be one that will be well worth it.
Yeah, this is going to do a lot of damage. Moves into the mineral line of the main base. Illusion's SCVs begin to drop the Marines, ready to catch them on the way out. Delays the factory production. An Illusion actually moving these Hellions in here. There's too tight of a choke point. He can't get a good position on these Marines. Polt's Hellions doing lots of splash damage. The SCVs fighting as well, and Illusion will clean this up, but he's lost a pretty decent chunk of economy. Took a big hit on his army, but the supply though still relatively close. And he does have his infrastructure together, whereas Polt has not yet begun any additional barracks or a third command center.
That's true, but his infrastructure got delayed as well, as both those SCVs that were building buildings were picked off as well. A lot of low HP SCVs already, so they could potentially die to something quick and easy later on in this game. Maybe there was a Banshee follow-up, wasn't there? Did he just completely abandon that plan? Because he was researching Cloak for the longest time. I guess he cancelled it.
Yeah, I think he just decided to cancel when the attack came. Wanted to save the starport, but.
Or maybe it was just to trick Polt that if Polt throws down his gun, he sees the tech lab spinning and he sees the starport is building something of a tech lab, but it was actually the Raven and not the Banshee. Hashtag mind games.
The mind games are real. He has the second Viking coming out. So Illusion has a nice bit of anti-drop preparation. I love this though. As I say that, Polt moves with 2 Vikings with his medevac. The ultimate escort for a drop play that, as you said, with Illusion having so many weakened SCVs. Look how many of these SCVs are at 3-4 hit points. If he gets these Marines in here for just a couple of seconds, he can kill maybe 8 SCVs without losing anything.
Illusion did build a supply depot right now on the north side, so he will be able to see it a little sooner. He's going to see that medevac right now. Ignite Afterburners will not be used. Polt doesn't have stim just yet, so it's not like he can just stim towards the mineral line. I guess Illusion should be fine this time. Maybe a PDD will go down. Yes, it will.
Nice use of the point defense drone. There's very few situations where you need Raven energy in the first 15 minutes of a TVT, so using it to defend against the aggressive play of Polt is a pretty smart way to keep the Vikings alive. And you know, bringing the SCVs to repair everything. This actually position looks pretty good now for Illusion. I was scared he might have lost a lot more, but Polt wasn't really willing to dive straight into that main base mineral line.
Now, something we haven't really spoke about, I want to bring it up in the start of the game, but we started talking about something else, is like, how much practice do you really think that both these Terran players had at Daedalus Point? I'm surprised we see Daedalus, and I feel that the only reason why we see it is that both players probably expected each other to veto it, and then suddenly, like, neither player wanted to veto it, and now they're stuck with Daedalus. Because I felt that first drop of Polt did a little more damage than it should have had, and if, like, Illusion would have had a building here all along, he probably wouldn't have taken that much damage from it. Why do you think we see Daedalus? Do you think that was the case, like both players just kind of playing a poker game over here and trying to call each other's bluff by not vetoing Daedalus?
Well, in all honesty, just for TVT, it's not really a map where you have a lot of difficulty zoning out drop play towards the later game because Illusion. Your expansions have a lot of space at the end of the wall. But
his tanks are so exposed. Sorry to interrupt you there, Nate, but one of these tanks was so exposed.
And he's actually got the Hellions coming in from the side as Illusion sieges up. Loses quite a few of the Hellions. This Banshee being in here, though, the Marine count is quite low. Could pick away significantly at this. One siege tank in the back, and he's just rallying everything forward. There's so many Hellions for Illusion, and the Viking control, he has the air superiority. He's chasing these siege tanks. How often do you see Hellions killing tanks? What is back here for Polt? Just a handful of Marauders with 2 Marines. And if Illusion can continue to press up here, I don't know if he can move into the natural, but this is a nice spot that he's in. I feel like Illusion wishes he had researched that cloak earlier. Could poke the front even more.
There is one turret over there, but still, it's 3 command centers against 2, so Illusion again. Yes, he's in a reasonable position. He has this, well, and I wouldn't say a soft contain, because this is quite a contain, but it's also not pressuring the production buildings just yet, or a mineral line. It's getting close, but with this orbital over here from Polt, he will be able to spot these units, and I guess the longer this goes on, the reinforcement distance is quite large.
Yeah, he's trying to just throw this army away from him, not even pulling SCVs, trying to break it with just his army. Those 2 tanks in the back still holding strong. That Banshee adding in lots of damage. The medevac tries to come in from the back as well. The Vikings pick that off, but Polt is losing absolutely everything. Still 2 siege tanks with the Vikings, with the 3rd siege tank in the back, and this Banshee finally picks off at least some of the Vikings. But, you know, this has actually been a really nice play for Illusion. He's still holding a 20 supply lead now.
Look at this sweet tank drop. Okay, well, one of these tanks on the low ground from Illusion killed his other tank. Still, these Hellions trying to pick up a few SCVs. I still feel that Polt is doing a fantastic job in hanging in there. He has taken damage, but I do not feel that it has been crippling amounts of damage. Now a bunch of SCVs are being sent across the map as well. Still no 3rd command center for Illusion. Polt's macro has slipped a little bit during all this madness, as he had 1,500 minerals in the bank. I think Polt has stabilized. He's even dropping mules at the 3rd base. That is very eager.
Yeah, getting the money from that 3rd base is so important. Illusion has been quite committed to this. He's just started that 3rd command center, as you mentioned, and he even brought the SCVs forward to repair, but he will retreat. And that kind of push is so strong on this map, like I said, because you have so much space in the natural. This is a map where if you try to wall that off, it's very easy for it to get picked off. And I think it really helps with those mid-game tank timings. But Illusion once again finds himself expanding after Polt. The SCVs he was able to kill have actually evened it out because he was preparing to take the 3rd base. He had overproduced a little bit, Polt, and now he can spread them out. It's basically same number of workers. Now Illusion is the one that has to defend as he moves out a Banshee on both sides of the map.
It was a great hold by Polt regardless. It wasn't easy. It was very easy to take a bad engagement one way or the other. He had less units to work with. Normally when you play Bio versus Mech, you hope to at least have a small army supply advantage, but that wasn't the case. However, Polt hang in there like a champ. And you know, Nate, every single cast you ever do, at least a full day of casting, there is always something you see that you haven't seen before. This time I could not see how the battle would play out because there was an orbital command blocking my vision. Not every day you see that.
When you need that vision, man, you need that vision, and that Banshee gets picked off. It's really just a minor detail to point out, but Polt having his +1 armor, with that later armory for Illusion, the Banshee only took 3 shots to kill an SCV, so he couldn't even do that much damage harassing his opponent. And I really like how Polt spread these Vikings out on patrol. Normally the mech player isn't the one that threatens the big drop play, but just one Banshee or one Hellbat drop, a single Viking can give all the notice or defense that you need to hold off against such attacks.
Illusion is going to try to at least see what's coming, because he probably feels like as well, all right, my opponent had 3 orbitals. He will probably move out in the near future, wouldn't he? That one Cloak Banshee will find this army from Polt that was making his way across the map. A double scan went down there. Is that a misclick or something?
Just got to make sure you see everything sometimes.
Yeah, Illusion scanned at least once. And then I guess, I don't know why Illusion scanned on top of Polt scan with his Banshee below it. That made no sense to me at all. But.
Need to make 110% sure he's there. Polt's map vision overall has been pretty great. These Hellions will catch this Bioforce on the right side. Those Marauders have a lot of damage packed in. And there's still 3 medevacs fully loaded in the northeast side of the map for Polt, so it could be looking to go for a very aggressive play. There's nothing there.
Missile turret in the main base. There's absolutely nothing. Not a defensive tank, not a few Hellions, not a Thor.
Vikings, they are moving towards the east side. Did he catch a glimpse of them? He is...
I guess he's just expecting
he's sending them to patrol on the right side, and he'll actually run right into these medevacs. If he kills these 3 medevacs, the 5 Vikings takes 2 volleys from 5 Vikings to kill a medevac. If he picks these off, it'd be pretty big.
So close. What did Polt just see that already? He could have seen it for like 0.1 second. If he actually just sent those medevacs back because he saw those Vikings for less than half a second, that would be the most ridiculous response time I've ever seen in my life.
Well, now he's just going to the other side. 3 medevacs going towards the natural of Illusion from Polt, but he has the Thors and the Hellions ready.
I'm looking at the minimap as well. I think that Polt is hoping that he's going to pull these Vikings out of position, but he did fly sort of away from them, so he will still be able to drop in the main base, and this drop, Nate, is going to hurt a lot.
Yeah, moving into the main base, those SCVs even weakened from the earlier phase of this game getting picked off. The Vikings will grab the medevac, so there's no retreat. Still has some units in the natural and prevents the drop from hitting that side, but Illusion takes some losses, still has a very large... still has most of his army here, but Polt, this is kind of what you want to do, trade away that cheaper bio, and with the economic advantage that he's held on to for this game, he still has a massive supply lead.
Yeah, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be for Chris. He lost quite a few SCVs here and there, but not necessarily the end of the world. You know, didn't lose any of his infrastructure, didn't lose tech, maybe lost one tech lab over here, but you know, it wasn't game-breaking damage just yet. However, on the other side of the map, we did see that fusion core going down already for Polt. Polt, of course, with a monster economy, being up 20 workers and having that fourth base established by now. I guess he is a little worried that he killed quite a few SCVs, which is normally a good thing. But if you have to fight a 200 supply mech army, which has like 160 supply real or 160 real army supply, and you're only like at 125 bio, it could be very tough. No matter how good you play throughout the entire game, you could get absolutely slaughtered by a massive mech army.
Yeah, Illusion's trying to leave just enough forces at home to defend as he moves out with this mech force. The Hellions being trimmed away quite nicely. Polt's, look at this army on the right side, getting ready to go for what could be a surround on this force if he moves in towards the natural. Oh, and that's where Polt's headed, towards that third base area. The fourth is still mining totally fine, and this could get ugly.
Yeah, I'm worried for Chris. Like, this is an okay army, but against everything that Polt has, this is just not enough. He left a lot at home, guys. Look at all these tanks he left at home. I feel that this is only half of Illusion's real army supply. It's currently 137 against 125, but this can still be 26 higher. However, this is maybe like 80, 90 army supply, not more than that.
I like that Illusion's trying to use the forces at home to keep this flanking force, or at least trim it down, try to hold it away from his main army. I feel like if Polt was able to do something similar to the last game where he just brings the whole force on top of the army, it could get ugly very quickly. But a lot of these Hellions still dying. Illusion actually just coming in from the back. Polt moves the whole army onto that tank line, and this is what we were talking about. All of Illusion's siege tanks on the center of the field getting destroyed. Polt maintaining still that 50 supply lead. And look at this, a single battle cruiser in the production tab, Rotterdam.
Yeah, battle cruiser is on the way. What a fantastic fight there by Polt. Polt did such a good job in being active with his army. You know, often people make fun of the high APM of players, and sometimes it's useless. In situations like this, Polt is using every single APM that he possibly has to, you know, to that mobility. Like, he's running around, he's making it hard for Illusion, and Illusion is not sure where he has to focus. Do I have to worry about my third base? Is he gonna drop my natural? Does he still have something on the north side as well? Or is this army just here to intercept reinforcements? This army was zoned out for the longest amount of time, and then on a certain moment, Polt just said like, you're trying to reinforce it? Then I'm gonna fight those reinforcements. He picked that off, then Illusion tried to like maybe unsiege and get a little closer, and that's when he goes with that Drew army over here on the north side. That was really well done by Polt. Yeah, he set that all up like a minute in advance, and it played out exactly how he had it in mind.
Yeah, and he picks off a Hellion in the center of the map, but you know, you're dead on. And you know, as a Terran player that likes to mech a lot, the most difficult thing is finding the right time to push and not getting killed by the backstab. And that fight was one of those classic situations of over defending your main base and then getting your army swallowed because you have too much supply back home defending. It's very difficult to balance, but now it's put Polt in a situation where he doesn't really need to attack anymore. He's building up a massive force. He has a base up on his opponent. He's building additional command centers, and he has battle cruisers on the field. As long as Polt doesn't give up any type of air superiority, he's fine. He has a Viking count advantage. There's some Thors on the map for Illusion, but just Thors alone aren't going to be enough to take out battle cruisers if there's a Viking lead.
Polt is ahead in every single possible way that you can be ahead in a game of StarCraft, I feel. He has a better army, he has a better economy, he has map control, he has more bases, he has stronger units. Like, is there any other way to also be ahead?
I can't think of too many other ways, especially in a TVT. Illusion's going to try to run some Hellions towards the left side of the map. Going to kill maybe some SCVs for free here. That's not bad, but I'm not even sure Polt needs to have that much supply and workers anymore with the number of orbital commands that he has on this map. And he's getting his forces out here. He has Yamato gun available on these battle cruisers, and he can just snipe away at this Thor. He can actually snipe the Vikings if he wants as well. And what does Illusion have? No missile turrets here. Just going to try to hold us off with the Vikings. There's the Yamato guns hitting some of those Vikings of Illusion, and the Thors have been putting that single target attack mode. They're chewing away at one of these battle cruisers, but all the Vikings are dead for Illusion, and now the battle cruisers can get to work just on these Thors. And once these Thors have fallen, the battle cruisers will have free reign over these siege tanks. Illusion puts on a few of these Widow Mines, but realizes it's not going to be enough, and a GG comes out. Polt with a 2-0 victory will be the first player to move to the winner's match for Group G here at WCS America.
Yeah, entertaining first best of 3 of the day or night for us or for many Europeans out there. Either way, though, like, yes, 2-0 for Polt. Maybe what a lot of people expected, but I still think Illusion put up a really good fight, especially on Frost. Perhaps, you know, sometimes you get a little nervous when you're ahead. I know all about it. It's like, well, I'm doing so well, and I'm going to beat this really amazing player. And then suddenly, like, you kind of throw it because it's like, or it backfires, and you don't cover yourself where you should have been covering yourself. But even that second game, that mech push, that was a scary push. And I definitely think that Polt was sweating for a bit. You also saw that in his macro, because Polt not normally a player whose macro you see slipping in that phase in the game. But when Polt has 1500 minerals, you know that he's been very, very busy. Otherwise, that doesn't happen. So I still think that Illusion played a very good series, but Polt just showing what a world-class Terran he is.
Yeah, it was a really nice push, especially the one in game number 2, and you could really see that it had Polt almost on the ropes for a moment. It's one of those situations where, as the Terran player making that push, you feel so good. You're in your opponent's base. You feel like you're just about to break him. But if you don't have that third command center. You don't have that armory. And Polt just says, "Well, I'm not dead, and I have bio, which builds very quickly. So just move, take the third base." And from that point on, it's well, all the damage you did before is moot.
I still felt that one drop from Polt did a little more damage than it normally should against a mech player in that phase in the game. And I really think that has to do with the inexperience of Illusion on Daedalus point. Now, I could be completely wrong, but I still think there was maybe a little bit of a bluff game going on, because Illusion doesn't like really strike me as the guy who's been playing a whole lot of TVTs on Daedalus, but I could be completely wrong. Either way, that was our first series of the day. It was definitely fun. Hopefully you guys are enjoying this WCS America broadcast from Europe as well. Are you enjoying yourself, Nathan?
I'm having a blast.
Are you having a blast? That's good to hear. So we're going to have to do a very small commercial break. But after that, we'll be back with some PvT action between Neep and Minigun. Should be a lot of fun. So guys, stay tuned and we'll be right back.